Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Monday again, can't believe it. You may notice a change of cast today. So I'm Ciaran. Lauren isn't with us today, but we certainly have Livia, the ever-present, here to share some of our wonderful knowledge with you again. We've got a great show lined up with a wonderful recipe of pappardelle stuffed with mascarpone and peas. So Livia will be explaining that and running us through that as well. We've also got a great giveaway as well that we'll introduce a little later on in the class. And as always, we love to hear from you. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask Livia, please feel free to just pop a comment in and we will get Livia to answer that for you. So without further ado, Livia, how are you?
Hello. Fine. Actually, here it's raining.
Oh, no.
I think we have exchanged the weather. I think you don't have rain there, right, today? Is it sunny? No, actually, some places has been snowing. I've seen a lot of pictures with snow. So
yes,
I don't know. Are you having the snow in Edinburgh? No.
We've had a little bit. We've had a little bit of snow, just a light dusting. Other parts of Scotland have been much worse. But as you know, it's springtime, so there's lots of beautiful cherry blossoms around. I keep thinking it's them floating through the sky, but actually it is snow. But yeah.
But yesterday, Ciaran, when you introduced me to the lessons, at the beginning you showed me it was sunny, I think. Was it sunny? It looked like
yes, absolutely. It's chilly, but it's beautiful blue skies and lots of sunshine. Okay. So yeah, it's been really, really nice. So Livia, what have you got in store for us today?
Allora, today we're going to do a modern recipe. So this is not a traditional recipe, but the shape of this pasta I think everyone knows because it's pappardelle. So pappardelle are nothing much different from tagliatelle, just a little bit wider, like less narrow, let's say. And in this case, we're going to make them stuffed. So it is a modern recipe, and for this reason, there are many ways to do it. So not just one way to cut this kind of pasta. It's an invention by a chef in a restaurant, okay, like usually happens for these stuffed pasta. But I think it would be nice to serve it, if you want to do something different from usual, and you don't need to make a big amount because we're going to make them quite big, and quite fat with a big amount of stuffing, so that just a few are enough to fill up a dish, let's say. So we're going to stuff them with an ingredient actually, which is, or it will start to be in season in a little while for you, which I think peas. Ciaran, when peas are in season in your country, do you know it? Do you have a vegetable garden, Ciaran? Not yet, maybe.
Not yet. No, I'm planning to do some work in the garden this week actually, but just for herbs, not for anything else. Obviously peas kind of widely available at most times of the year, Livia, so we can find them very easily.
Yeah, but fresh, maybe in summer or something like, I think late spring for you. I remember I've seen some pictures of people growing it, and I think they will be in season later. As here, they're not in season yet. But
yes.
Peas are always good, especially if you buy them frozen. They are always very similar to fresh because when they are frozen, they don't go through any procedure, so they are just frozen fresh. So just cook them from frozen, maybe adding some flavor, and I think shallot goes very well with peas. And then cook them down. Can I say cook them down? I don't know. Cook them for a long time until they become like a mesh, and then blend them. Add the mascarpone, add some cheese, other cheese to make it more compact, like Parmigiano if it's needed, and use them as a stuffing. You can stuff pappardelle in the way you like. So there are recipes that include even ragu sauce. So you could make ragu sauce to serve it on top as a sauce for the pasta, and use a little bit of it to stuff pappardelle. So I've just rolled the pasta because I didn't want you to have to wait for me. Since I'm not an old granny, I'm a little bit younger. Yeah, so I'm not really an expert on rolling the pasta yet, but I've started to roll it. Okay, so these are 2 eggs. But right now I'm keeping it with the right moist, so for it not to dry too much, because here it's wet and humid because it's raining, but it's still warm, so it will dry quite fast. With this quite thick, let's say, cling film or plastic film, which is used by grannies to keep the pasta moist and soft and not too dry, because when you have to do stuffed pasta and you dry it too much, then you would go through trouble when you have to seal it. We are not going to use any water or any egg to seal it, so we're just going to turn it on itself, turn it over, okay, the stuffing, and then press with a knife, for example, or with a pasta cutter in case you have one, or otherwise even just with a fork, to seal the edges, and then it will be done, ready to be cooked. And the sauce that we will do
Lydia,
with
if
this
you
pasta
remember,
will be
actually,
simple.
you taught me how to do this a couple of months ago. I think it was when we were maybe first starting the online classes, and I used a knife to cut, and it did get a wee bit messy. So I do think a pasta cutter is a great tip. I think it's one of the biggest tips today, actually, is to use the pasta cutter because it seals the edges very easily.
Exactly. You are like the perfect student. I remember everything we talk about.
Well, everything you
tell
me,
yeah, that lesson was a lot of fun. I remember it was you and Julie, and we were trying to see if these lessons could have been successful. And I think they did at the end, because I can see that everyone is following the lessons since then. So
yeah,
if you have a pasta cutter,
plenty of people following you today as well, Livia. I'll just a couple of people that we have with us today. We've got Mark and Liz and Anne. We've got Julia as well. So thanks so much, folks, for joining us. And as always, if you have anything to ask Livia, just let us know.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Comunque, this is a pasta cutter, and this is made in bronze, and these are the best ones. They last forever. I don't know if you need this tool to last forever in your life, whenever you will need to use it in the future, but these are something that you usually inherit together with the rolling pin or the pasta board from your grandmother. And actually, I bought my own because my grandmother one is owned by someone else that came before me, but these will last for a long time. So when you buy a tool, I think you should buy the proper one, and then you will save money at the end because it will last longer and work better. So this pasta cutter, as you can see, is made in a way that when you use it to cut the shapes of pasta that you need, they are also used to seal the pasta, not just cut. They also seal it. So for this reason, when we've made the mini ravioli, Ciaran, I remember it was very important to use it because it was sealing little stamp size ravioli that needed to be sealed properly, and even if the amount of stuffing we were using was not too much. Anyway, today I'm going to show you how to cut it and seal it in different ways, not just that you have to buy a pasta cutter, but I will show you another way through with a knife, just to give you many chances to do it, even if you know, and in a way that you don't need to buy anything. Allora, for the sauce, we're going to start from the sauce. Okay, we need very simple ingredients, and these are here in the picture. So we need.
And just while you're getting the ingredients, Livia, I'll just mention, obviously, our giveaway this week is one of your aperitivo classes, because I know you introduced some new recipes. So if you wouldn't mind maybe just filling us in on the spring and Tuscany recipes, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah, okay, that's exciting, like last time. So yes, now, first of all, we're going to change the recipes every month, actually. So every time, you know, there's just 4 times when you can do the same recipe. And the Toscany, we've decided to do it up to different regions. So this month is Toscany, and for Toscany we are going to do, I'm doing this, I'm telling you this while I'm slicing the Shallot, otherwise we will never finish. So we decided to do some recipes that really are the symbol of Toscany, and they are panzanella, which is the bread salad. You know, in Tuscany there's a lot of recipes based on the steel bread, because their bread, usually they buy it just maybe once a week or twice, and then they use it for you know, the week long, and it becomes steel. And when it becomes steel, since it doesn't have any salt, it's nice to reuse it in different ways. So panzanella is a salad, is a bread salad made with cucumber, tomatoes, and basil, you know, and olives, and mainly it's made with vinegar because they made it in a way that it could last longer. And then pappa al pomodoro, which is a tomato soup with bread, okay? And then we're going to make coccoli, which are actually like a fried dough, typical just in Florence, okay? So these are the recipes that we're doing for the Tuscan one. And then for the spring one, I'm making small pizzette, okay, because we had a lot of requests about making pizza. So not making the real pizza, but, you know, pizzette for the aperitivo. So small pizzette, and also 2 other simple recipes, which are rolls, more springtime recipes, which are rolls with aubergine and rolls with courgettes, stuffed with salmon and some cheeses. different cheeses. Anyway, just to do something more spring.
That's it.
So this is the shallot.
Amazing, yeah. So yeah, obviously, if anybody would like to win that aperitivo class, just pop aperitivo in the comments there. And I think Julie's man in Facebook today, she'll be picking a winner at random at the end of the session. Thanks for that, Livia.
Ciao, Julie.
Delicious.
So shallot, some butter, because it goes very well with peas. And then I'm going over there, Ciaran, to start cooking it. Okay, I'll do it here. And so we need to soften the shallot first, obviously. And then when it's softened, we're going to add the peas. As I was saying, the peas are frozen, so they don't need to be defrosted before using them. They will release some water that will help them to get, you know, to the end of the cooking to be well done, because we will need them into a mesh consistency, because they will be used as a stuffing for our pasta. Okay, so while this is cooking, before adding the peas that you can see there here, I'm going to finish rolling the pasta. Okay, because I actually have the peas also already cooked. So I think you can watch me doing this. Okay, so I'm going to finish rolling these layer of pasta, because since we are doing a stuffed pasta, we obviously need it to be quite thin, because if it's too thick, it will be 2 layers of pasta on top of each other. Okay, so we need this pasta quite thin, and to do this, I have my rolling pin. Okay. Okay, so if you use, when you roll the pasta, these are actually 3 eggs of pasta. Okay, when you roll the pasta, to make a stuffed pasta, anything like tortelli, ravioli, whatever you're doing, don't use too much flour, because that would make it too, it would make it more difficult to seal it. Okay. So my pasta is starting to dry quite fast, because here, even if it's raining, it's quite warm, as I was saying. I just would like to make it thinner in some bits. Okay. And when it's thinner, I can cover it with the thick plastic.
Any tips, Livia, for how thin you should roll it? Is there something or anything our guests should be looking out for to make sure they have the right thickness? Yes,
that's very difficult to gain, but they say is thin enough when you can read the newspaper under the layer of pasta, under the sheet of pasta. So actually, if you can just see, for example, my board have queste venature di legno, no? So if you could just be able to see the wood shapes, that, you know, lines that we.
Oh yes, the grain of the wood.
The grain, yeah. Right. Or otherwise, if you can put your newspaper under and be able to read it, then it means that you finally got the right thickness.
Great. And Carol asked, Livia, for 3 eggs for your pasta dough, roughly what diameter should you be looking for?
Allora, I've used 3 eggs, and the amount should be for 3 persons. This is a stuffed pasta, and as I was saying, it's quite heavy, because we're going to fill it up quite a lot. Yeah.
And in terms of the size of the pasta that you're rolling out, it looks to be, what, maybe 400, 500 millimeters wide?
No, I don't know. I never really checked, because that's really deep. I mean, never measure it, because it depends on your ability.
Well, the thickness is the main thing, then, I take it.
Is the thickness, yeah. You should do it the thinner you can, and the way to try it would be to see if you can see through it, really. And actually, in some parts, I can see better. Now, since it's drying, it's breaking a little bit, because it's getting very dry and very fast. I could use the point of the rolling pin, as I said before, to make wider. I mean, to correct the shape when it's not round, when it's not exactly round. Okay, it's starting to break, so I have to pay attention, because it's getting very dry, quite dry. So this is 300 grams of flour, and the kind of flour that I'm using, now I'm going to show you the package, is what is usually used here in my region, from the grannies that I film. Meanwhile, I'm adding the peas to the scalogno, because it got already softened. Okay. and I will let it cook until I can see that the peas will be easily blended, adding a little bit of white wine in a little while. But since I got them already cooked, I will just show you how to do it, but I will take the one that I've just cooked previously to do this faster. Okay.
And you mentioned that with the frozen peas, they don't take as long to cook as the fresh peas.
Yes, for sure, it's easier, and also they release quite a lot of water, which is what we need to cook down the peas, because they take quite a long time. So it's also easier because you don't need to keep adding water to the peas to cook down. So, comunque, this is ideally, quite thin, but as you can see, it's drying because I've done it before we started, and I'm taking a while to roll it because I've been waiting. So now I'll cover it with this film, with this plastic, as I was saying, for it really not to dry too much, because otherwise I will find it difficult to seal it, okay? And the pasta flour that I'm using is called pasta premium, okay? And it's a mixture of almost let's say 90% is 00 tender grain, 10% is semola flour that make the dough rough and let the sauce that we will make stick better into the pasta. So it makes it a bit, it gives it a completely different consistency, and it helps the sauce of the pasta to stick better on the pasta that we're making. Okay, so now, see, these peas are cooking. So while I finish cooking these peas, since I got them already cooked here, I will leave them here to cook for you to see it, okay? But I'm going to blend the peas over here so that we can do it faster. So I got a blender, obviously an immersion blender, my friend, that always helps me a lot, okay? And then I'm going to, if you realize that your peas are very thick and still hard, if you didn't cook them down a lot, then you could add a little bit of, for example, oil to make this mixture a bit softer, okay? But in the end, we are going to add mascarpone to this mesh of peas to finish our stuffing.
And just before you blend that, Livia, I'll just mention as well, we had a question there from Sue. The recipe is in the comments as well. So if anybody fancies giving this a go, you'll find the link in the comments, and yeah, it'd be great to give it a go and let us know how you get on.
Yeah. Also picture. We want to see pictures.
Yes, that's more important. Lots of pictures.
Yeah. Sorry for the noise. Making very strange noises. Okay. They're releasing some of their juice. Also, they are warm. When you use an immersion blender, it always seems like we have to defeat something. It's like a war. I don't know, it's always very strange. Okay, so this is mascarpone. You got the amounts in the recipe. Okay. I'm going to mix it to about 100, 150 grams of mascarpone. Obviously, all of these amounts depend a little bit on your ability to roll the pasta thin. Because if it's your first time making pasta and you've not been able to roll it very thin, then you will obtain less surface to stuff, right? So any amount of stuffing that you're making really will not be enough to use the amount, to use it in the pasta, because it's going to be a lot of stuffing for the shape that you have to fill up. So it could be that you have to find another way to use the stuffing. And usually pasta stuffing are perfect to make delle torte salate. Come si dice torte salate? Delle pastry stuffed with savory pastry, or tarts, savory tarts with vegetables. So you could add to this, if you add an egg and a lot of Parmigiano, you could end up to have a perfect stuffing for some puff pastry or some pastry in general. Okay,
the color looks amazing. It looks so vibrant, Livia.
Yeah, that's a nice color, especially a spring color, I think.
Absolutely, yes.
So there was already salt and pepper in the peas. Now I'm adding Parmigiano. Quite a lot, because I want to make it thick. I didn't use a lot of salt, so I'm not worried about adding too much. Okay.
That's great.
So I'm going to actually add a little bit of more pepper.
And just a reminder about today's competition, if anyone wants to join Livia on one of her aperitivo classes, just pop aperitivo in the comments box and we'll draw a winner before the end of today's demonstration.
Okay. So the consistency of the stuffing is this. Okay, and so it doesn't have to be too thick. And now we are going to try to use it in a piping bag, because I want to show you two ways to stuff it. A professional one and a more home-based way of stuffing. Okay. So I'm going to add some. So if you don't have a piping bag, you could even just use a plastic bag, and you can just cut the corner of the plastic bag at the end, and it should look like if it was a piping bag. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to cut it here. I don't want too much stuffing to come out. Okay. So I think that should be fine. I'm going to add a little bit of, oh, I've dropped a lot of it, a little bit of wine to the peas. Okay, so that the alcohol will evaporate, and then finish cooking them. Usually I cook them covered, which makes it easier for them to cook with the water that they produce, you know, that they will release. Otherwise, I'm cooking them open for you to see while I'm doing it. But if you cook them covered, you should need to add less water, okay, or less liquid, because they don't reduce as fast as they do when they are open. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the pasta. So there are two ways to do it. I will keep part of the dough to show you how to do it if you don't have a pasta cutter, and the rest I will do it using the pasta cutter. And I hope that if you think you will make pasta often, you could actually buy a proper pasta cutter and use it often in your pasta experiences. Allora, now we are going to do cut a strip out. Ok, così. And with the rest, I'm going to create lines of stuffing until the half size of the dough. Consider that I would like to fold it over like this on itself and seal the pappardelle strips here. Okay, so I'm going to keep some space between them so that we can cut it better and it's easier for you to see it.
And how wide do you tend to do the strips, Livia?
Because pappardelle are strips, you know it.
Yeah, and how wide? What centimeters do you do?
Sorry, no, I didn't understand. So usually they should be, let's say, 30 centimeters, which is quite long. Okay. You can do them smaller, less long, in case you want to serve, for example, more amount of pappardelle for each dish. If you make them quite stuffed and quite long, then you will serve less amount of pappardelle. Instead, if you want to make them wide and thick, if you want to make them thinner, more narrow, then obviously you will just make them shorter.
Okay. Great. Just while you finish there, just a couple more hellos. We've got Caroline. Hi, Caroline, Alison, and Sue. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got Carol and Liz. Lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, ciao a tutti. Actually, we are really a big family because we are all, I know what everyone is doing every day. Because I'm following their pictures on Facebook, on their walks out, or what's the weather like there. So, okay, so now I fold it over, as you can see. Okay, I'll try to make hair. No, you know that I don't know how to say hair. That's my problem. Out, comunque l'aria.
You're basically just sealing that to take out any little air pockets, Livia. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because I've made that mistake myself. I know when there's too much air, the pasta seems to like burst open in the water and it makes a big mess.
Yeah, yeah. So I always have to push quite well with your fingers to make air come out. I cut it here because it's just one. Nice. So this is just the first, way to cut it. And I'm going to use the pasta cutter to seal them. So as we were saying, this pasta cutter is sealing them. If you want to try to do the same result of a pasta cutter, you should use this part of the knife, not the blade, but the back of the knife, as you were doing, Ciaran. And just, let's say, use it like if it was a saw, like if you were cutting something gently, pressing well, so that while you're cutting, it's also sealing it. Since I want to make sure that it's sealed, I'm going to use it on the pasta cutter, okay? So don't leave too much edge. If you think you've left too much, make it thinner, because we don't want to have, the edge don't have to be too big, because otherwise it's two layers of pasta on top of each other with nothing in the middle, which is not very nice. Okay. So this was a way. Okay, I'll leave these on the side because these are enough. You can make them much bigger, and I've made them previously like very fat, like these, as you can see. So you see it's double the size. And then in this case, you would serve less. And actually, you can even cook them wrapped on themselves like this. Okay, boil them like this. They will stay like this, and serve them in the middle of the dish. Boil them for a little bit longer. Okay. And I'll show you just briefly the other way. If you don't have a pasta cutter and you want to do it, even just using a spoon. Okay, I'm going to turn this over. As I was saying, if you just have a spoon and you don't want to use a piping bag, so let's say the home way, the way you would do at home without really worrying about the tools you have to use to make it properly. I'm making quite a big one. I cut a strip. As you can see, this is like a strip of pasta. You fold it over like this. Okay. You press well the stuffing all on one side. Okay. And then you cut it just with a knife. So I could have used less stuffing. I've made it quite fat. I've made this one quite fat. And in this case, you're also using, I'm going to use these leftovers for a soup. You could use a fork to seal the sides. Okay, some is coming out. Okay, when you make them thick, as I just show you with the other one, you can wrap them on themselves and cook them really wrapped like if it was a rose, let's say, I don't know, and cook them like this, like a little nido, like a little nest. Okay. Va bene. So now I'm going to use these as soon as we are ready with the sauce, okay, to cook. Okay, quindi Ciaran, now I'm going over here. So the peas made a bit of a mess, because if you leave something on the hob, then obviously you should pay attention to it. Comunque, I'm going to add a little bit of water and keep cooking them so that I can show you in a little while how they look and how they have changed their color. Okay, and I'm going to make the sauce in here, okay, in another pan. Okay, for the sauce, since the stuffing is quite important, we are going to make the sauce in quite a simple way. So for the sauce, I'm going to use pancetta, the cured one, okay, so not the fresh one, quite a little bit thicker than usual slices, okay. When the pan is very hot, we are going to, like we've done once, I think, before, we are going to make it crunchy, okay, and move everything so you can see it in a higher flame. Okay, it will make it crunchy in a better way for sure. Okay, we make it crunchy, and then we are going to use the fat that the pancetta have released to add some butter and then some cream, and that will be a simple but tasty sauce. We will use the pancetta to break on top of the pasta when it's done. Just the fat that the pancetta released now while we are making it crunchy will go with the butter and the cream in the sauce. Still warming up the pan, so that's why you should warm it a little bit earlier to make it really crunchy from the beginning. Okay.
And is this just for more texture, Livia, in the sauce?
Yes, it gives a bit of like a fat flavor. You know, there is mascarpone inside the pappardelle, so you know they are quite crunchy already, but it will give more flavor for sure. And yeah, it will give it a different texture. Sure, yeah. And meanwhile, I'm going to turn up the temperature of the boiling water, even if it's not the time to have dinner or for you, or you know, even lunch for me. I'm adding some rock salt, and I'm about to boil also the pasta. So I make it crunchy. Do you use pancetta, Ciaran, sometimes?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I've seen your pappardelle once. I remember you sent me the picture not long ago. You are a perfect father now. You're cooking.
Yes, I can't be feeding Patrick pappardelle yet, but no, my wife and I do enjoy it, so I do make it quite regularly. Well,
he will start soon to ask you pasta. As soon as you know what is your job, I think he will ask you.
Absolutely.
Pasta. Okay.
But yeah, it's a really quite a good one to start with. It's quite easy to make, and it just, again, it's all about the confidence really. Once you start that, and then you can start making different shapes. You can do the stuffed pappardelle, so it's a really good one to start off with.
Yeah, and I think you enjoyed it, right? Maybe you've made it the first time. You made it in Tuscany, maybe, or somewhere where you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. My first trip with flavors. That was we've done some pappardelle. Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see now, there's all the fat that is in the pan, which is what we like. You know, it's good. If you don't like it, you can throw it, but we want it. We want to use it to give flavor to the sauce. I'm adding a little bit of butter. Okay, and then I got cream, which is actually single cream. I've added a little bit of water. I've rinsed the container with some water. Okay, and now I'm going to boil. While you can see both of the pan, I'm going to boil the pappardelle. Okay, so I take them up from here. So you see, the pasta cutter is always, I think, useful. I think it is useful. Yeah. Actually, one thing that I forgot to say, my pasta is with red yolks. You know, we said it many times, but for someone that never heard it, they are red yolks egg. So that's why the color is the same as my tulips. It's quite bright. Okay, so the water is boiling. I've added rock salt. Now I'm putting the pasta here. Allora, if you've stuffed it well, like I show you with a few of them, obviously you will have to pay a little bit more attention to the cooking, and it will take a little bit longer. If you didn't stuff them too much, but just normal like we've done, they just take a few minutes. Like, I cannot really tell you, when pasta is handmade, there's nobody that can tell you a perfect time. So if you ask this question to any chef, they will reply with a certain number of minutes is lying, because nobody can know when an handmade pasta is cooked, and mainly because everyone gives to the pasta surface a different thickness while they're rolling it. But you can actually check that the color of the pasta starts changing. So usually it's very intense. And when you cook it in the boiling water, you will see that it starts becoming pale. So that's one way to, start thinking that maybe your pasta is ready. And then using a fork, even if you don't press or make a hole, you can realize that the thickness and the consistency, more than the thickness, that the consistency of the pasta has been changing and is starting to change. So that's the way you should use to realize if your pasta is cooked. So there are no minutes I can tell you. If you ask me how many minutes it cooks, it's a little bit like when you ask me how big is the dough, like you were saying, Ciaran. There's no answer to it. It depends on the amount that you've done, or because actually everyone have a different scale. So if you check the weight of something, is always different. So you see, the peas have to change their color. They have to become like a mesh. So actually, I kind of burned them a little bit while I was rolling the pasta. So the color is not as bright as the previous one, but they have to become, come si dice, Ciaran? No, I know it's not, maybe it's a negative
softer.
way.
Yeah, they had to kind of break them down to become softer.
Yeah, so because we want a mesh of the peas. We don't want the pea as a vegetable with
and you just add them to the cream mix on the other pan then?
No, the peas were to show you how to cook the peas for the stuffing. Just to make this lesson faster, I cooked them first. Before I cook a batch before we started, and that's why we're being faster. But it was just to show you how to make the stuffing, Ciaran. Okay, so some of them I can see they are starting to be cooked, because obviously I've made some bits that are thicker, some bits that are thinner. So I'm taking out the bits that have changed the color faster. Okay. As you can see, not many have, and just a little bit seems, just on one side, it seems to have started opening, but.
Okay, and just while we're near finish up there, Livia, I'll just a reminder to anybody who else wants to enter the competition today to join Livia on one of our aperitivo classes. Just pop aperitivo in the comments box there, and we'll get a winner picked before the end of the demonstration.
Okay, wow. Is it for this week? Yeah, for this week aperitivo.
Well,
no?
again,
So
we can chat.
we
can chat. Yeah, we can have a chat with the guests, see what suits. But it'll be great to join you on one of those classes and learn even more tips.
Yeah, so this week we're doing the Toscan, and we're doing the Toscan aperitivo, and we are doing also the spring aperitivo. But usually every 15 days we do the Italian aperitivo, which is another interesting experience where I talk in Italian, but I help whoever not following much, but they want to practice his Italian. So sometimes I say it also in English, what I have to say. Okay. So I talk in Italian and in English when it's needed, and we talk about Italian ingredients, and I'll show you the 3 recipes that we usually do. And also Carla is doing it. So Carla is doing also the Sicilian aperitivo, so which is interesting. Maybe it's easier with Carla that she speaks just Italian, and because sometimes I find it easier to speak in English. I don't know. I got so used to it
so much.
Really.
That looks delicious.
Okay. So with crunchy bacon on top. Okay. I will come at the camera here. Okay. So that I can show you maybe better.
Oh, that looks fantastic. I'm so hungry now. I haven't had my lunch yet. I think I know what I'll be having now.
You didn't have your lunch? That's what worries me more. That's what. I know. Wow, that's strange. Quite late for you, no? Is it 2:30? Okay, 2:30 is not too late. You can still have time.
I'll definitely be having it now that I see that.
Okay. So that's pappardelle ripiene con I piselli. And I've cooked them, as you can see, it is important the way you cook them. So pay attention when they look, the bits that looks already cooked, take them out. And I always saute the pasta with the sauce, especially when it's just based on cream, and it will give it more flavor. And then the bits that are less cooked, leave them in the water for a minute longer.
Fantastic. Livia, once again, thank you so much. Lots of great knowledge and tips there, and a delicious recipe. So we'll get the winner up in the comments box now very soon. But thank you all, as always, for joining us. Livia, it's been a pleasure. And I hope to see you on one of these Facebook Lives again soon.
Thank you. And enjoy the hairdresser and enjoy all the shops that are open and the beer in the pub.
Will do. Thank you so much, Livia. Take care, everybody.
Ciao, Ciaran. Grazie. Bye-bye.
Bye.